Hey, thank you so much for joining me on this from scratch setup video for my VR motion capture solution for Unreal Engine. This is a free solution that uses SteamVR hardware, so that's not free. You have to actually get the lighthouses, Vive trackers, some kind of SteamVR controller. I'm using the Index controller. And if you want facial data, you want an iPhone. So this is designed to primarily work with Character Creator 3 models, but it also works with Metahumans as well as the mannequin. If you want to make a custom setup for your own characters, you're going to have to make a custom blueprint, which you can just retarget one of the other blueprints to your character. There's a bit more setup, but that's possible as well. But I'm just primarily going to go over how to set up the project to get you up and running today. Let's take a look. Okay, here we are at the Epic Games Hub. I'm going to launch Unreal 5. So we are going to be building this in Unreal 5 because it's incredible, it's awesome. There is one feature that doesn't work. So if you're going to be working with actors and you need to control the system, you're not going to be at the helm yourself, I would recommend 4.26, but let's go make a new game. That's good. Yep, all these are fine. Just, I'm going to call it VR Mocap. You can call it whatever. All right. I forgot that was there. Forgive this. I made this for a friend's wedding video, which explains less. Anyways, yeah, here we are in the editor. So unintuitively, one of the first steps you're gonna have to do is actually drag in files using Windows Explorer. So I've navigated to the folder we just created, and you're gonna wanna go inside content. And this is where you're gonna actually drag in the GitHub repo. So I have that here. Just going to make a copy in here, and you can see it's actually populating right now. Don't drag from the repo into this pane because it'll get confused even though they're U assets. So another important note is don't run the game yet. I wouldn't recommend actually running the game until we actually install some plugins. So I'm just going to update the project. Let's go into plugins, and I'm just going to drag that pane over here. So we're going to be using a lot of live link. So let's type in live link. We want this. Why not? I want that too. I want XR. Yes, definitely XR. That's an important one. All right, let's see. We also have control rig going on. So let's get control rig. Yeah, you know what? I love control rig. I didn't even know what this is. Let's just click it on. Why not? It says control rig. We want it. So this one's also important. The full body IK. So we want that. Yep. And let's make sure that we have editor utilities. Okay, great. That's already enabled. That's awesome. This thing will allow us to run the kind of widget I made for controlling the system. So since we've added a bunch of plugins, we need to restart. So let's restart now. Okay, so the editor's restarted. Let's take a look at this VR Mocap folder. So inside you'll see there's quite a few folders. This is kind of the content. You might need to dig around in the animation blueprints, so that's where those are. Control rigs are also kind of important. I have some work in progress. Don't go in there. Don't go in there. So back here we have kind of the four most important components. So you can see when I started clicking around, Unreal Engine is so smart, it knows it's missing plugins. So if it says it's missing something, just press enable. And amazing. Now I just have to restart again. So here we have the four most important components for making a VR motion capture scene. We've got an editor utility, which this thing is incredible. If you don't know how to use these, you right-click on them and click Run Editor Utility. This, unfortunately, is what's not working in Unreal 5 right now. So some of the functionality might not work for you, but in 4.26, this is how you could actually control, you could calibrate the trackers, you can enter and exit calibration mode, set the player height, a bunch of other really useful things. You can do all those from the buttons as well on the controllers, but sometimes when you're handing it to an actor, they're not familiar with the system. It's easier if you just press the button yourself. So there's that. Then we have the kind of player pawn here. Let's just drag one in there. And this is new. We actually have, if I press W, Command W, or Control rather, it's going to change this to player 1. So you can see we've got actual local multiplayer working now. So you can have as many as you want, but of course you're going to run into a limitation with how many Vive trackers, well, you can afford, and how many that'll actually track at one time. I did a test with 2 full bodies and it didn't end well. So make sure that don't use too many hubs. Apparently Each of the trackers almost needs a dedicated USB channel. You might need to get a PCI card, but I'll explain a little bit more about that in the description. So we have one of these in the scene. Let's drag in this object here. So this is a locator object. Basically what will happen with this, if this is present in your scene, and there's another important component to it, let's see, is active is a variable that I've exposed. If it's active, all the characters, all the actors that are active in the scene, their root is going to snap to this object, which can help you if you're trying to rebuild the scene in another program. Also, just kind of helps with feet sliding in general, so I recommend using one for higher fidelity. It does mean that the character will snap to this when you kind of become embodied, so maybe not the best for VTuber setups, but yeah, I'd recommend using one. And the only other vital component besides an actor is getting this spectator camera, and that's going to be your window into the world. So there, that's looking pretty good. But now we need an actor. Well, good thing I have one, so let's it's like a cooking show. I already have it prepped. All right, let's drag in my character creator model. I'll also show you the Metahuman setup as well as the hybrid setup. So in this system, you can actually have a character that has a character creator body with a Metahuman head. It's a little bit swimmy. I need some advice on how to actually get a more solid pairing of the two. But let's go over this import process really fast. It's a skeletal mesh, yes. Let's make sure we have all the options here. We want to make sure morph targets are there. I don't know if these other ones are super important. Edit. They were super important. So you want to make sure update skeleton, I think it says reference, the first option there, and use T0 as reference pose. Otherwise the skeleton could get a little messed up. So let's import. Yeah, character creator it's a really great base. It's really fun to work off of. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click inside this folder, make a blueprint class that is an actor, and I call this BP_Ben. Why not? Let's double click on it. That'll launch us into the blueprint editor. Love this new interface. It's so good, isn't it? All right, so we're going to add skeletal mesh, call this Ben. And we want to load in the skeletal mesh that we just imported. So that's the only one in our project, so pretty easy. There he is. Oh, those shaders compiled fast. All right, so let's, one of the most important things for the system, I'm going to say that a lot, apparently. We want to have them at 90 here. So the reason being is I noticed that all the characters, and just in general, the kind of the way things are done is X forward is should be the character forward. So obviously you can't make the default scene root like that because that's the default scene root. We can just change his orientation so that he is facing in, you can see here, the X direction. Another important thing, we're going to be using an animation blueprint. I'm just going to type in CC3. We want this VR Mocap CC3 anim blueprint. So that is going to be using our special blueprint, and let's actually, let's take a look at that. I'm going to browse that asset here. So one of the most common errors in this project is it's not going to have access to the skeletons I set up these animation blueprints with because I'm not including any of the content. But it's really easy to retarget them. So we're just going to retarget that to the iClone default male skeleton that we use to set up Ben, the one that's actually in the VR Mocap folder. Just click that and everything should work fine. Okay, so I'm just going to press play. Don't worry about these blueprint compilation errors. Again, these are because we don't have the skeletons present in our project. Once they're there, it typically relinks fine. So back here, and then one more component to add. If we type in mocap actor, we've got this. So this is basically what's going to tell the pawn what it can possess. So now that Ben's in the scene, I'm just going to click on, so you want to select the character here, scroll down here, get the component here. So you can see these are the three tags that are the most important, the three variables. So is mocap target? That is on. And note, if I turn it off, that's not the default value because I set it in the blueprint what the default value of that variable should be. So yep, the character creator 3. And so player index. So remember how I actually set up multiple ones of these before? So there we go. So this is one. If this actor, if I go back to his component, is set up to be 1 as well. These two are going to find each other. This one, which is 0, see player upon 0, that's not going to find the actor. So that's basically how you would set up multiple characters in a scene. Pretty easy. I'll add one more component, a sound effects generator. So this thing's really cool. I have actually some royalty-free sound effects that I recorded myself of just, cloth, footsteps. So basically, see how it says pelvis sound bank, the feet, hands. This is how you would change out if you wanted to say have the waist make cloth noise instead of a leather noise. Probably don't want to do footstep, but it'll look for velocity changes and actually make a sound effect for you, which is kind of cool. It's kind of like an automatic Foley system. Okay, so that was really easy, right? Well, the rest is easy too. It just is very laborious, and I apologize for this. I'm trying to figure out a way to streamline this, but let's go over what you need to do to set up the rest of the system with your hardware. Okay, laborious step number 1. Let's go into VR Mocap, and let's open up our player pawn. So lots of stuff going on here. I'm just going to close down all these functions. So many functions. Let's go to the event graph here, and quick overview. Never mind. Let's just take a look at what we need to. So you can see there's a warning here. It doesn't know what this input is because we haven't set it up in our project yet. So I'm actually just going to expand this list up like this. And let's actually, let's put it over here. We're going to have to actually make all these inside of our project settings. So you have to go to input, and we're going to have to start making action mappings for these things. I have tried, just prior to this, exporting and importing my input settings, and for some reason, if you don't type them out manually, it doesn't work. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. But for my other projects, even accepting those inputs just flat out didn't work. So unfortunately, we are going to have to set these up manually. So let's go into action mappings. And so here we have input action index R trigger. So we type in index R trigger. And I'm going to try to include this file for people. Maybe it'll work for them. I'll have like just a blank project all set up with like the settings. So maybe you won't have to do this step, but just in case you do, here's how you do it. So here we go, index R trigger. Fun stuff, right? And I imagine there's going to be an index L trigger. Oops. And you want to make sure that everything's spelled exactly the same. Okay, so I have the triggers, the thumbsticks down. So this is when you press the thumbstick in as a button, as well as the button presses as action mappings, not as axis mappings. So now, if we actually go back to our code and compile, so a bunch of missing inputs just left the scene here. So now we're going to set up the axis mappings, and we're going to start with the thumbsticks. So this is index L thumbs. You don't have to watch this. This is boring stuff. Okay, so I have the axis mappings for the ones that have kind of a float variable associated, as well as the ones that are just simple button presses. Let's compile again. And hey, look, they all disappeared. So now we can use our input. So that's great. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about input, just in case you have a different kind of controller. So this name does have to be index R unless you swap out this event here. So this could actually be anything. We could have like input A key or whatever. So we could have this drive this event. So you can use different kind of controllers, but if you're using index controllers, I recommend you stick with this because that's how you're going to get the input from your hardware into Unreal Engine. Okay, so there's that. We've got our input set up. Again, I'm going to try to save this project file so that people have a quick start, but it could be very large, could go offline, who knows. It's healthy, it's good for you. Learn how to set up your inputs. I know, it sucks. Okay, now that input's out of the way, let's get to the other big pain point of this project, for initial setup at least, which is managing your Vive trackers. So what we're going to go into here is Window, Virtual Production, Live Link. And Live Link is awesome. I love this thing. But you're going to notice something when I boot up this tracker. So I'm just going to start this guy up. So blue light, of course, it's looking now green, it's ready. Let's go source XR. So you have to have, again, go to plugins, Live Link XR for this to show up. I'm going to enable all these devices to track. Just add. Now here's our tracker. And so that's easy, right? The thing is, you have to note this device ID because we're going to actually be parenting this to, say, different body parts. So what I do is, you'll notice there's a little tag on here. The first 3 after LHR, that's what this is. So you can see it says 6EF. I just put that on the device because often when you're scrolling through the list, only the first few characters show up. So I'd recommend labeling your Vive trackers with what the device ID is inside of here. That'll make managing them a lot easier going forward. So what you have to do is you turn on a Vive tracker, or you can turn them all on at once and occlude them. That's another way you can do it, but I'd recommend just doing this. So here we got a new Vive tracker. Here, CBD. It's my favorite one. I don't do drugs. So yeah, again, turning them on one at a time, adding, seeing what's new in the list. Oh, it's this one. Or like here, this is FEE. If I cover it, I really cover it. Come on, there. See how it turns yellow? That's another way you can tell what tracker is what. So as long as you don't occlude any other trackers, you could have them all turn on at once and then note which one is whatever one you just occluded. Okay, so now let's go over how to actually get all your Vive trackers working with Live Link. So let's actually open up, again, Virtual Production, Live Link. Just get that sitting there for now. I'm going to power on all my Vive trackers. I'm going to start with the controllers. I think I have the best success when I actually turn on the index controllers first. So let's turn those on. And I'm putting everything on the center of the floor just so that all the base stations, all 2 of them, can see the devices, because I find that sometimes Live Link will get confused if it's missing some of the sources. So I'm kind of standing out of the way, go Live Link XR source, add. So let's say we've got 2 controllers, that's correct. Headset, see, but we're missing a tracker. And which tracker is missing? Probably this one, because it's not on. There he goes, okay. So now what we have to do is add XR sources again. And there, that missing Vive tracker shows up. So I'm going to put all this stuff on. I explained in my last video, but I guess it bears repeating. These don't have to actually go on specific parts of the body, because how my system works is it actually looks at the offset of the tracker to the character bone during calibration. So the orientation doesn't matter. Where they're on the body doesn't matter too much, as long as they're in the general vicinity. And we will have to actually set up which one is meant to drive what part. So that's why it's important to notate which Vive tracker has what device ID. So let's get this on. Oh no, I always forget to put on the chest tracker first. Put on the chest tracker before you put on your head thing. Okay, so I launched the Live Link Face app. I'm like, oh no, where's my source? It's not appearing here. Now I forgot another plugin. Go into Plugins, Apple AR. Let's just get both of these. And that should show up now. Okay, so I'm looking at Live Link. We've got our Vive trackers. We've counted them. I've got 5 on my body. I'm counting 5 here. Got 2 controllers. I also have the iPhone because we installed that Apple AR Kit plugin. So what we need to do now is select this guy and go down to the Live Link trackers here. So what we have is, what is our head tracker? So that one is IFA. I'm actually certain that that one's IFA. If you want to check, we can basically open up this list. And so you see how it only shows you the first few characters. That's why I only wrote down the first 3 characters after LHR. So IFA is correct. Chest tracker is 4AB. That is correct. So that is how you would set up all these devices here, pelvis. And so it defaults those values. If you need to set this up for yourself and you want to have them so you don't have to input those values every time, you just go inside here and you can just change the default variable here. And that'll just set up everything so that every time you drag in this player pawn, for player 1, it'll be this setup, these Vive trackers. But you know what? Hey, I wanna do some captures. I'm excited. You can tell, I'm very excited. Don't worry about those. Okay, so here we are in play mode. You can see on screen I have some Vive trackers representing what my physical body is doing in virtual space. Now a few things happen when you launch the project. One is that we enter calibration mode. And so you notice that there's this little ring around the actor. Basically, the player pawn ring will snap to the actor and you will actually teleport so that the play space center is going to be centered with the actor. Unless you're using the locator mode, in which case it'll most likely, your play space center will be the locator. But anyways, it should get you in the ballpark of the actor. And 2, it's going to actually scale you to kind of match the actor. One important thing is you want to click inside the viewport so you can actually get inputs into the system. There's actually a nice way you can actually default to click inside. If you go editor preferences, I think it's called game mouse control. Game gets mouse control. This is what you want to click on. That way it'll auto click into the viewport on startup. That thing saved my life because sometimes it'll be like, why isn't that working? It's because you're not clicked inside the viewport. And there we go. We're done. Sick. I've lost my shaders on the face, but that's no problem, right? So a few things about this system. Let's actually, I'm going to exit calibration. So you'll see like there's kind of hand gestures I'm doing. And when you're starting to learn this program, what I'd recommend doing is go inside your player pawn. Let's move this out of the way. Don't need to access these anymore. Debug strings HUD on. So what this will do is it'll actually put strings on the screen. So this will kind of tell you what's happening, what player pawn is being attached to what, what mocap actor is being attached to what player pawn, player height, that kind of information. Could be useful. Also, I've got like a UI that appears. The reason why I have this default off is to say in a VTuber situation or where you're actually using your live screen, you don't want that text or that UI up there. So all the controls, they basically turn off and on with that button. So when you hold down the A button, you get this kind of Half-Life Alyx inspired menu. So this is how you actually can change your camera settings. So I can get like a selfie cam, and if I do the same direction twice, it locks the camera. Let's go back to POV mode, which is up. So there's also, I've got kind of just like from the chest out, it'll just point back at you. Or if you press it again, it's kind of like a snorky cam. So you can kind of position it where you want and again, stop it. And if you do the same motion twice, it basically locks the camera in place. So you'll notice that there's something weird with one of the elbows. I don't know when that was introduced. The code is like pretty much identical for both sides of the body. But when I'm facing certain directions, yeah, the elbow twists, and in a way, I'm still trying to track that down because it wasn't like that before. Very unnerving. Stuff just changes. I don't like it. I don't like change. So what I've just turned on is upper body only mode. So let's go back to the POV. So on this hand, you can see we've got enter calibration. So that'll kind of kick you out of the actor. I can load the calibration. That's what we just saved. You can enter director mode, which should also kick me out of the actor. Let's see. Yep. So I'm not even seeing my points though, because I think I have to be in calibration mode for you to see my points. Let's use that load calibration. Let me see if I can, you can kind of see it. Yeah, let's load calibration. And now it teleports me to where the actor is. So kind of neat, it looks like at their hips forward, my hips forward, and just kind of puts you into the position of the actor. So yeah, there's lots of cool stuff in the system that kind of makes it smooth to hop in and out of a character. Again, I've designed this to be used either as a motion capture tool or as a VTuber application, so you can be running this live. And so you can actually even have an animation playing on the character and then just jump in using one of the commands and then just take over the character really fast. So we also have upper body only mode. Let's get the camera in here. So that means if I'm moving around, you can see the character's not moving. It kind of just like locks me, like my pelvis motion. Let's see what's the better way to, yeah, there's that crazy elbow again. But you can see I'm twisting and turning. It kind of does a little bit to take my pelvis motion on up and put onto the actor. So if you want like kind of the actor to be in a very specific spot, that's upper body only mode. And if you don't have feet trackers, that's what it defaults to. All right, so yeah, that's a quick overview of how to use this system. I think if there's any more fun button commands I put in. Don't think so, not yet, but, oh, actually there is one more thing. Yeah, why not? Let's take a look at this. So let's jump out of the actor. There we go. So say the actor's not in the right place. I can use the thumbstick to drive them around, rotate them, so that when I enter the actor, they're going to be positioned correctly. Because like, I don't know, say like they're over there and I need to calibrate, but I'm over here and like I can't actually even reach that. That's too far. Oops, which direction is that? I guess they're over here. Like I'm hitting a wall. I actually can't even get that far. I can bring the actor closer to me. We've had that when we were doing our shoot. Sometimes they would be through a wall and like they weren't close enough to actually calibrate to. So that's what that button's useful for. Like I can just bring it over to me. Also, if you're lazy, there you go. Okay, so that's a purely character creator model. But what about a hybrid between Metahumans and character creator? So what we can actually do is make a mesh that is just the body only. So I basically took the other model, the Ben model, deleted the head, teeth, eyes, all that stuff, hair. So we're just left with the body. And I imported that as a skeletal mesh. Again, you have to use the skeleton, the iClone skeleton that's provided in the project. Let's open up our Metahumans and go to Jimbo. So here's just a raw Metahuman. Just going to duplicate it and call him CC3, just to designate to us that he's also a CC3 character. Okay, so there he is. Oh, this one might have actually been one that I modified already. Let's take a look. Yep, it has a mocap actor component on it, because you'll notice that the body has been rotated, so that's facing on the X there. But what we are going to do is we're going to take the face. That's basically all we want is the face. We're going to attach it to the root, not make it the new root. And I'm just going to, actually I'll leave the body and just delete all of these submeshes, because we're going to actually use this to find our Ben body only. So Ben body only, there we go, looking good. Now we will have to use the animation blueprint of CC3, because it is a CC3 character. We're going to have to use the CC3 blueprint here. Face, we're also going to have to use the VR Mocap Metahuman face, not the default Metahuman face. And under the mocap actor component, we want to make sure that the type is not Metahuman, but CC3 body, Metahuman face. Very aptly named, because that's what we're doing. So what you want to do is just position this as close as you can, so that you kind of want to, like, unfortunately the Metahumans, there's not a lot of skin, or fortunately, depending on your perspective, there's not a lot of skin attached, so you can't like do a tank top, or most likely can't do a tank top, but we can do something like this. Okay, so that's good. I deleted out the other actor from our scene, just so we can replace it with this one. Rotate him around. Let's go into the details, make sure that this component is set up correctly. Yep, it is a mocap target. It's looking for player index 1, which, again, this is the player index 1. Okay, so let's press play, see what happens. Line ourselves up. It looks like my right controller doesn't work anymore. Okay, so sometimes the inputs just don't work on the index controllers. It's a mystery. No one knows. It'll go down through the ages. It's one of those things. Like, who built the pyramids? Probably Egyptians, but... Okay, I've loaded up a new scene, just for, you know, a change of scenery. This is my vibe here. This is my happy place. So I'm just gonna drag in this, drag in this. Those are kind of like the trifecta of the system. Okay, we've compiled all of our shaders. I just added like a little temporary light because I had to change the scalability settings just to light a little bit more of our scene here. We did restart the computer, so we do have to actually go in to Windows, Virtual Production, Live Link. Let's drag this over. And again, you don't want your trackers to be occluded by the desk or anything. You want to have them visible by all the lighthouses if possible. Sometimes what I do is I'll just do a little turn, just make sure nothing's being occluded. Yep, that's fine. Okay, let's press play. Hey! Wah! Ah! Ah! Right. Oh my gosh, so scary. Okay, let's do a little scene. Let's record a scene. Wow. Yeah. You know, when work said there was all expenses paid, I figured there'd be, you know, some expenses. Okay, we'll make do with, I get that bunk. Unless Sam wants that bunk. It's the only one that doesn't have rust on it. All right, you know what? I'm getting a Motel 6. I'm gonna walk through this wall. So let's exit game mode and take a look at our wonderful cinematic. Let's hide our old character. We got an audio. I don't have the monitors on, so I can't actually hear it, but okay, so that was a Metahuman with a character creator body. You probably saw some weird jankiness with the head. Again, they're not perfectly parented. I don't know what's going on with my logic there. So if anyone has any ideas, I'd love to hear about them. But let's take a look at how to set up a Metahuman because they're quite easy to do. And they look really great. The post-processing on the animation blueprints look really, really good. Okay, so I'm just gonna open up our character here. So again, we have to rotate the body so that they're lined up with the x-axis, at least x is forward for the actor. I am going to actually, on the body, we're going to change this to an animation blueprint, and we want the VR Mocap Metahuman. There you go. It's thinking about it. It approves. I'm happy. So then we go to face. Same thing here. We got a VR Mocap Metahuman face. And they're very similar to the kind of default Metahuman animation blueprints, but I've got a fix for the kind of closing the mouth. Just some other logic. This is the update the head position if it is parented with the character creator body. Again, I feel like there's something weird with like the cadence of the control rig versus this kind of parenting. But anyways, let's take a look at the last component to add, which is the mocap actor component. We're going to make sure that when this loads up, we're going to have is mocap target because we want to be using this character, and it's going to be of type Metahuman. So there you have it. That's how you add a Metahuman to the VR Mocap system. Very easy to add new actors once you have everything set up. I think the most difficult thing is, again, the input and getting the Vive trackers working. But once you have everything up, putting on the suit, hitting Live Link XR, it all takes about a minute to set up to do motion capture, which is fantastic. As a special bonus, I'm going to now show you a new feature that I just coded a few days ago that allows you to capture a witness cam alongside your motion capture. Let's take a look. So let's just go back to 4.26 because, you know, 4.26 is really, really good. And actually, this is a project, a secret project I did a 48-hour film using this software, and it went pretty well actually. I had a really good time. So I'm going to use this project to actually show off a feature that basically I just finished coding yesterday, which is the kind of the Spectator cam being controlled by a motion tracker. So first of all, let's see, we've got our live link, we've got one tracker. I'll show you what that looks like here. When you're doing a camera rig, at least this is a 2.0 Vive tracker. The 3.0s, I'm not sure which way they have to orient, but you actually have to orient it like this. Everything else in my system, you can orient the trackers however you want, but you need to have the light facing up, and it needs to be, 90 degrees. Otherwise, you can't have the tracker like this. It's got to be like that. It's got to be doing some kind of Dragon Ball move. All right, let's press play on this. So I also have an iPad set up with the remote session. So basically you just go into plugins and find remote. You want remote session, and probably this one, I don't know. I clicked on both. What's the harm, right? Just click on everything, it's fine. All right, so let's set this up. So the way I coded this originally was kind of intended for you to be capturing this while a person is acting, so you can actually get the kind of witness cam alongside the performance. Oh yeah, another important thing about this Xbox controller. All right, let's run this. So the reason being is that if I press play, you notice this isn't controlling it at all. And that has to do with what kind of game mode we're in. So we default into the calibrate mode, remember, as far as VR Mocap actors go. But if I say calibration's done, and let's see, let's set this to fly cam. Why is it? Oh, I know why it's not working. I forgot to actually enable the tracking mode. I had this default to off because I figured it would be a hazard. Let's see, let's do that. So again, it should just be kind of a static camera until we actually enter into a different mode. Oh my God, so we're outside. So I'm gonna have to use a joystick here. Let's see if I can get this on camera. Oh, also another thing. Remember, you have to click into the viewport to actually get inputs. There we go. Can you see it? Can you see it on camera? Yeah, I guess you can kind of see it. So let's just kind of zoom around, find where our actors are. So I have the right joystick will control the kind of focal length. Ooh. All right, there we go. So this is the scene from my movie. It's pretty dramatic. But yeah, you could actually just record this as a sequence, right? This is actually the first time I've actually tried this out. This is really fun. So that was a not so quick look at how to set it up for Unreal 5. So as you can see, there's some little gotchas with Unreal 5. It's a wonderful program, and everything I've written for 4.26 has translated wonderfully into Unreal 5. I'd recommend following this guide for maybe 4.26, 4.27, because those are great releases as well. You're going to be able to make a film fine with those because they are powerhouses. Thank you so much for taking a look. If you have any questions about the system, let me know in the comments. Thanks so much and take care.